Hello, and welcome to ISI Insiders, the flagship podcast of Poning Pasture. Because here at ISI, that's what we do. We turn information into impact by taking things from basic research and moving it through Pasture's quadrant, this is the quadrant of use-inspired basic research, to making a difference, to making R&D matter and making that impact. And as we'll see today, my guest today is all about impact. Whether it's building teams, leading teams, or empowering teams, I'm very excited to dig into the details and how my guest, Terry Benzel, thinks. But as a reminder, we're talking about ISI Insiders because this gives us a chance to go inside of ISI. It allows me to talk to some of these folks across the Institute who are doing a range of crazy, cool tech and science and, believe it or not, management and leadership work. And I aim to better understand their what, their how, and their why. That is what they're doing here, how they came to be doing it, but perhaps most importantly, why, right? With their ability to go anywhere else, to work on anything they wanted to, why are they here at ISI working on this right now? And why, dear listener, might you care? As a reminder, I'm Adam Russell. I'm the director of the AI division at USC's ISI, and I'm your podcast host. And along with Nina, the Wonder editor, I'm going to be serving as your virtual guide as we talk to some of these ISI insiders, because I think talking to the folks doing this work, leading the teams, building them, and not just talking about the work from the outside, gives us a better sense of where things may be headed, or at least where these folks think we might be headed, as well as where they think we should go and how we might get there. My guest today is Ms. Terry Benzel. Terry can be described as a sort of a true ISI insider. She has done many, many things here at ISI. She at one point was the director of the networking and cybersecurity division. She has been a research scientist for some time. She has started and run companies before coming to ISI, and now is the associate director of ISI, one of only a few, and actually a dear and deeply valued colleague who is helping ISI sort of take its next step. I hope we'll dig into that a little bit more. But Terry, thanks for coming on ISI Insiders.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
All right, well, let's keep it that way. I'll try to ask some good questions, and I'm actually genuinely excited to hear, to give you the space to understand a little bit more about your philosophy. But we've got to start with the weird time travel question, which I found actually to be very, very helpful to set the scene, which is I would like to go with you back in time to meet sort of 12 or 13-year-old Terry. And I'd sit there and listen to you, modern day Terry, explain to 12 or 13-year-old self, what are you doing today and how did you get there? And would that blow the mind of 12 or 13-year-old Terry, or would it sort of make sense to her?
I have always been interested in math. So that's what, so how it started was 4-year-old Terry lived in a house with her father who was getting his PhD in philosophy at Stanford in logic and philosophy. And there were these yellow legal tabs with logic symbols on them. And I always wanted to understand what those were. What was it that Dad was doing locked away with all these logic symbols on these yellow pieces of paper? Then my first professional job was the year between my senior year of high school and college, working at NASA Ames Research Center. And I was at NASA Ames Research Center when we landed the first Martian rover on Mars. And they let us come in at 3 o'clock in the morning and watch pixels come through on the auditorium screen in vertical lines. And were we going to see the green man on Mars? And I was like 18 years old.
Man. So, but at that first job, I mean, you're seeing how math can sort of, play a role, and you see what's possible. But why was that the hook at that point? Like, why did you decide, like, well, that's it, I don't need to go? Well, maybe you're gonna tell the story. Why I don't need to go back and get a PhD. I can make an impact other ways.
No, I still thought I needed to get a PhD. And, and my reason for taking the time and staying there had to do with a boyfriend. And it was, it was all that kind of weird stuff I did at 18. Right. But it was more that it put me in a research organization from day one. Mm-hmm. I'm running JCL, huge decks of cards on an IBM Punch, right? I'm not doing the research, but they talk to me. Now we get that little thing about the people and the communication. Here I am, 18. I could have been alone in that cold computer room, slogging around with those jobs. I don't know if anybody knows what the big card decks are anymore, right? But these people sat and talked to me and showed me their algorithms and why it was important and what we were doing and how we were translating it. That was the real hook. And so every single job I've had is kind of built on the previous job. because it was a research organization. So I think research becomes really important. And I was at Draper and in grad school at the same time. Then I was in a PhD program at Boston University, and this might not be surprising, and you might have heard it from other people. My advisor was frankly sexist. And I just reached a point where I, wasn't willing to live like that. So then I'm at BU in a senior seminar series class, and I read this article in ACM Transactions on Computing, written by Shahale, Huff, and Gasser, and it was called Proving Programs Correct. And that was like magic, because guess what? The way you prove programs correct is you use those logic symbols that I looked at when I was 4 years old. Holy cow! It's computers and math and logic. It's exactly my dream. And it was written by people at the MITRE Corporation in Bedford, Massachusetts. And I was at Boston University, and my fiance's best friend worked at MITRE. So I was like, okay.
Thank you, universe. Yeah, I got it.
So then I go to Dan and I say, Dan, I want to do this. What do I do? And he's like, so I don't know anything about those people, but yeah, sure. MITRE is having a recruitment evening Wednesday night in a month. Why don't you just go to that? So I walk into MITRE with the article in my hand, and I walk up to the first person I see and I say, I want to do this. I want to do this. And they all looked at me like, you want to do that? We need people that want it. You really want to do that? And, I got to interview with Shale, Huff, and Gasser.
I do want to jump from there to how you got to ISI. Again, because I suspect it's not linear, but I want to touch briefly on, so I don't want to impose a theme on your life at all. That's not fair. And it's also probably not true, but there's these really interesting parallel tracks. There's what some would consider to be sort of like the cold, hard, like steely logic, right, of math, where there's right answers and there's a process and ways of thinking. And then there's the other side of this that I'm hearing, which is, but you wanted to be around people too. And you wanted to be around people who, in your terms, saw you, right?
Yeah. Oh, you get it. That is the main thing. Yeah.
Well, right. They saw you. So how did you walk both those paths at the same time? Is it just because you were lucky to find good teams? Did you have something to do with, building teams? Or I'm just trying to figure out how you sew those together.
I mean, there's a lot of luck, obviously, but I think it's also that I'm unafraid and transparent. And so I never felt I had to put on airs or position myself or be something that I wasn't. I have never, ever felt that. And, frankly, I find that people find that to be refreshing, and particularly in a deeply technical area and in a research area, because in research, I think naturally there is a level of insecurity because it's research. We don't know if we're getting it right or wrong or what we should be doing. Yeah. And so to have somebody who shows up, and kind of just shows genuine curiosity and no pretense and no fear, it opens conversations. What's happened to me throughout my career is like, I'm a researcher. I have to do research. But then I have these people skills, right? And I would constantly there'd be a group of people working on a project, and I'd end up in a kind of leadership position. And then I'd say to myself, no, I'm not. And they'd say, do you want to be a group leader? You should be no, I'm a researcher. I got to prove to dad I'm right. I know what I'm doing. And it was at MITRE, towards the end of my career at MITRE, I was like, oh, right, I'm good at this leadership thing. I think I should do that, right?
Yeah. I do want to pull on that a little bit, because it is true. Sometimes people are unwilling to, they're scared of it, right? You are tagged as a leader because you show those skills, but somehow acknowledging that feels like, I don't know, it doesn't fit or it's inappropriate. Good for us that you did. And over the time that you've been sort of in this career area, I won't say jobs because they change all the time apparently. Who has been, to your mind, like sort of an intellectual mentor? Like who stood out to you as the kind of leader that you thought, that's the kind of leader I want to be?
Yeah, well, you just mixed two words there. You said intellectual mentor and you said leader, and those are different people.
I forgot you have a split brain. That's right. You have the cold, steely, rational intellect, and then you have the I see you human aspect. All right. So tell me who are your heroes in both of those areas?
Well, I'd have to say John Rklowski is an intellectual leader.
Who's at ISI? That's right.
He's at ISI. He makes me always think out of my box, and that oftentimes I'm one who goes quick to solution. And many times I would be in this place of, I know what we need to do. And I could be talking about building something for deter or whatever. And John just comes in and just asks just the right question at just the right moment. And holy cow, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. And now I have to go rethink about it and talk to people.
Yeah. And what could be annoying is that the fact that you appreciate that as a strength and a gift is also speaks volumes about you.
Right. And then I have to say, there are not so much at ISI, but a woman leader I had at MITRE Corporation, she took me aside and she said, and this was in the 80s, I joined MITRE in 1982, and she said, there's two ways for women to get ahead in this environment. You can try and be like them. You can act like the man. You can dress like the man. You can do that. Or you can lean into who you are as a woman, and you can speak an authentic truth, and you can speak softly. And that's who she was. And that's who she taught me to be. And I just remember that. And I tell that to all the women that I work with today in any kind of a position.
That's really, I think, powerful, certainly for women, maybe even for everyone, in the sense of, if you are authentic to yourself and you find yourself in a situation in which that authenticity can't thrive, cannot be respected, is not valued, well, maybe you're in the wrong place. How do we build leadership skills in researchers? How do we make this less of an uncommon skill?
I think it still goes back to those human qualities, convincing people that their value includes the human qualities, and that value is not just the algorithm or the paper or the statistics or the numbers. It's really doing the people talk. And so it's modeling, I'm going to take the time out and spend the time talking to you. And I want you to talk to me. And then we have to reinforce that in ways about our culture, that we want to value the communication. So I think really everybody wants to be heard. Everybody wants to be seen. You pointed that out. And once you do that and you teach people through modeling, I really think it's not something you lecture people at. You don't tell them that they need to do this. Take a few minutes, during the group, in the middle of the group. I find I always share something personal. And most people really perk up and hear that.
I believe it. So, where we work in artificial intelligence, there's this large discussion around, like, is AI going to take our jobs? And it's clear that AI can do a lot of our jobs if our jobs are reduced to tasks, right? If they're reduced to specific little things, particularly quantitative things, yes, that's true. But it's the other stuff, it's the things you're talking about, right? Building the human glue, as it were, as a team. We know it's important, but the hard part is we can't quantify it, right? We can't turn it directly into dollars or return on investment, even though it's clear when teams have that, they outperform. How can we make that more explicit? It's an impossible question.
No, because, but I think it then does come back to sort of quantitative things, right? So I can think of a couple of really clear, examples, winning proposals and awards. And so I've talked about what happened on the Sphere project when, literally Elena wrote that with a 2-week-old baby in her lap, and everybody came together. And then just last night, we got notification on, a really interesting, different thing. We're going to support the California Public Utilities Commission and analyze the requirements for the merger of T-Mobile and Sprint. But it was a damn hard proposal to write because it's California state. It's not DARPA. It's not the DOD. It's not NSF, right? But we wouldn't have gotten that if the whole team didn't come together and draw on each other's strengths. And that gets to the last thing I like to talk about is, particularly at ISI, we have a long history of only looking sort of myopically at our researchers, academics, and intellectuals, and our PhD students, whatever. But nothing that we do would happen without everybody in the business office, essentially, and all of our admins and everybody in pre-award and accounting. And we can't be successful without them. And it's really been my mission for a number of years to raise that awareness and to change the way we treat people in different work categories at ISI.
What do you think is your real superpower when you build a team? What do you think you bring to a team that nobody else brings?
I think it's diversity, and I don't mean it in the DEI sense. I mean having diverse people on the team. And I think that most people are traditionally fairly narrow-minded about the kinds of people they bring on a team. And so I think bringing in people from all walks of life, if you will, or different positions. I will say I struggle with something, and I found myself doing it this week in a not good way, which is I do have a bias. We all have our biases. And I tend to want to be around people who are like me, who talk a lot, who are quick thinking, they're just out there. People who have to think about what they say and want to go away and look at it before they join the conversation. I really have to work to be in that setting. And I know that, and I understand it. Those people obviously bring just as much to the team, maybe more, but I have that bias. And so I make sure that my team has people from different walks of life and from different ways of approaching the world. And I get people here all the time who say, why did you invite that person to that meeting? Yeah. Why does an admin have something to offer here?
Yeah. So that's what I meant when I asked that question about like in growing or educating sort of leadership skills faster, is that if you do that sooner, people will appreciate like there's a reason why that person's there, even if it's not apparent to me.
Yeah.
There's a reason.
Right.
You've taken your new job at a really interesting time, both for ISI, but also the world more generally. I think arguably things are getting more complex. There's a lot of change happening. Some of it's more painful than others. Well, last quick question for you. Do you have sort of hobbies or things you do as pastimes that you think sort of help you become a better leader, a better colleague?
I'm not very good at hobbies.
Okay.
But I will say there are two things that make me the kind of person I am. One, I'm pretty fanatical about exercising, and it's blocked out in my calendar, and it's
Excellent.
there, and I don't come in until I do that early in the morning.
Excellent.
I go to the gym, I do Pilates, I walk, whatever. The other thing is I have a cabin at 8,000 feet in the Eastern Sierras. It's between here and Mammoth, outside of Big Pine. It's been in the family. I started going there when I was 6 years old. The mountains is where I find it. And the one thing I love about my cabin is it's very, very rustic. There's no Wi-Fi. There's no electricity. I mean, we have propane lamps and propane heaters and stoves and refrigerators and hot water. I mean, we have all the comforts of home. But and it's, a mile up a dirt road. So I go there, and I also really believe in the chop wood, carry water philosophy, if you know that book. So I go there and, I chop wood and I carry water and I do the things that you need to do for survival in that kind of an environment. And it doesn't use my head in a computer. It was, and it was my father's cabin. So, there we go, back to my father.
Yeah, no, the way to tie it up. I'm impressed, but nonlinear, certainly nonlinear. And yeah, I think we are wrapping up here time wise. Given everything you're doing for us, I certainly don't want to keep you longer than I have to. But a couple of themes that pop out to me that I heard is this notion of hidden treasures. Like that there are hidden treasures that you were a hidden treasure at one point, and people found you, and thank God they did, and that you are now here also helping us find our hidden treasures, whether it's people or frankly, what we're still capable of. And I think your commitment here at ISI to my personal statement is to empower those who empower others. That's a skill set that I think we couldn't do without. So I want to thank you for being here, and I'm going to go ahead and commit you because I know there'll be other jobs. The universe is going to try to pull you away from us, but I'm going to commit you to like helping us see us through this really interesting.
I'm very passionate about ISI.
Bless you.
I'm not going anywhere else. The only thing on the horizon for me would be retirement, but I'm not ready to do that. So.
Well, as my 4-year-old says, pinky swear. All right, we'll call it pinky swear. All right. Well, Terry, thanks again for taking the time.
All right. Well, thank you. It was a lot of fun.
All right. Well, if you enjoy these short podcasts, please do what really only you can do, or at least we only want you to do, because that's most informative. You've listened to this after all. Please give us a score, rate us, evaluate us, grade us, subscribe, spread the word, send us feedback. Certainly, always looking for that. That's what good teams do. And of course, just keep listening and learning. And join us, please, again for another episode of ISI Insiders, where we'll keep exploring, keep learning, and keep humanizing tech to help navigate our way through this weird world, trying to do what humans can do best when they face these kinds of challenges, working together as if all our lives depend on each other, because they do. So for now, for the future, fight on.